Let's turn to other news. More than 20 aid organisations working in Gaza have called for urgent intervention after a UN commission concluded that Israel was committing genocide there. Israel said the report, published on Tuesday, is based on biased sources and false information. There has been international condemnation of Israel after it announced it had started its long-awaited major ground assault on Gaza City. Canada's foreign ministry has called it horrific. People attempting to leave have crammed their belongings onto overcrowded vehicles or set off on foot. Routes out of the bombarded city are clogged with traffic. The Israel Defense Forces say thousands of Hamas fighters are in Gaza City. Let's go to Jerusalem and our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Nell. Yolande, we've been watching these pictures of the flow of people down that coastal road. Is that the only route out at the moment?
That has been the only route out, and that is the route by which tens of thousands of people have left in the past few days amid this intense bombardment of Gaza City. But the Israeli military, which really wants to force people to leave and is telling them to go to the south, it says that it's going to open now for 48 hours, another temporary route out of Gaza City, which goes through the middle of the Gaza Strip. We've had people going on foot. We've seen that in the footage. People have said that they just cannot afford the transportation costs. People saying that can be as much as £500, £700. You know, that's about $1,000 to get a ride to the south. And it takes hours also to go in the cars, the donkey carts, the vehicles that people are taking, just because that coastal road has been so clogged up. Of course, when people get to the south of Gaza, they're also finding there that resources are in short supply. There's very little space to pitch a tent. The hospitals there too are overwhelmed. Yet the situation in Gaza City itself remains very frightening. Israeli army radio says that the Israeli military has hit some 50 targets overnight, more than 140 in the past day, as it announced the beginning of its new ground assault.
It was just over 24 hours ago, Yolande, that we heard that report from the UN Commission announcing it had concluded that Israel was committing genocide in Gaza. What has been the wider reaction in Israel itself? We know of the Israeli government completely rejecting it.
That's right, and people have rejected these allegations of genocide. They see it as being baseless and flawed, but there is also among Israelis this kind of growing sense of international isolation, as much as the Israeli Prime Minister came at a news conference last night saying that he had been invited for his fourth visit to the White House since President Trump's inauguration. So the US remains Israel's firm, its closest ally on the world stage. Still, at the news conference, Mr. Netanyahu was having to go back to comments he'd made a day earlier about Israel's increased economic isolation. He'd actually caused a lot of alarm on the markets here because he had talked about how the country would have to become more self-reliant. That really hit the stock exchange, drew criticism from some in high tech as well. But it is expected, as world leaders go to the UN General Assembly in the next week, that we are going to get, of course, more countries, including the UK, recognising a Palestinian state. That is seen as being a real sort of diplomatic blow by Israel. It is said that such actions are rewarding terrorism, but there are also other actions being threatened, such as arms embargoes and different kinds of sanctions.
And Yolande, very briefly, there have been more calls by aid agencies calling for urgent intervention. What is the latest on aid going into Gaza?
I mean, still, it's difficult to get aid into Gaza. And we've heard from the UN that the Zakim crossing, which has really been serving the north of the Gaza Strip, has been closed for several days. They're saying that many of their missions on the ground in Gaza City in particular are proving extremely difficult to get Israeli approval for. And then there are other security issues related to the situation there.
Yolande, thank you very much. Yolande Nell in Jerusalem. Just to give you a live shot there looking into Gaza. We heard a confirmation from Israel yesterday that military operation has begun into Gaza City.